Hello and welcome everybody to the presentation of our web app GLAMorous Europe, dating the GLAMs of your neighbors. We are Anne and Gerd, and together we are the founders of the company Digitalwarenkombinat. With the company Digitalwarenkombinat, we aim to help GLAM institutions to develop digital projects. We focus in our projects usually on open source and sustainable software. Now we would like to show you one of our latest projects, GLAMorous Europe. This prototype aims to bring playfully together people with European artworks. GLAMorous Europe integrates Wikidata and IIIF. IIIF is a standard for delivering high-quality images. Now Gerd will show you how to select, collect and remix artworks with the web app GLAMorous Europe.
When starting GLAMorous Europe, the application presents to you a variety of European artworks from different GLAM institutions. In a Tinder-like swipe approach, you can either like or dislike the artwork. To show the artworks, we are querying the Wikidata API with GraphQL. As this is our first Wikidata project, we had some challenges with finding proper queries for our needs. So for the future, we would like to improve our query and we would like to implement a recommendation system aiming to show artworks based on the user's interests. All artworks you liked are now stored in your collection. You can view them and select details from every favorite artwork. Thanks to the IIIF viewer, we can provide a deep zoom feature which allows you to select even tiny details. We also integrated a lasso and a background removal tool for this purpose. We are working on an improvement of these tools. Furthermore, we would like to integrate a link to Wikipedia articles for more background information about the artworks and the artists.
Now you yourself can be an artist in the last step of the web app by remixing artworks. Drag and drop the details of your favorite artworks and stickers and combine them with prepared frames and canvases. After that, you can share your own GLAMorous Europe artwork. In the future, we would like to implement also user accounts to make it possible to continue your work later on or to collaborate with others. Now we love to invite you to try out GLAMorous Europe. To do so, scan the QR code or enter glam-europe.de. It is now available in German and English. And we would be happy to get in touch with you to receive feedback or helpful hints. You can find our contacts here. Thank you very much. Bye!
Hello, I am Homma from Keio Museum Commons. In this presentation, I discuss the current situation and challenges of conservation documentation in Japan, focusing on three key aspects: documentation formats, types, and locations. Additionally, I will introduce recent initiatives aimed at preserving and utilizing documentation. The history of cultural property conservation in Japan is long-standing. For instance, there are conservation records of the halo of the Great Buddha at Todaiji Temple in Nara that date back to 19th century. However, the systematic creation and accumulation of conservation documentation began in the late 19th century when the government initiated cultural property protection efforts. The Ancient Temples and Shrines Preservation Act issued in 1897, enabled grants for conserving cultural properties designated as national treasures. Since then, the conservation of designated cultural properties, national treasures, and important cultural properties has been conducted mainly through the collaboration of three main parties: the owners, the conservators or workshops, and the government agencies that subsidize and oversee the conservation. It is important to note that non-designated cultural properties are typically handled in a simpler partnership between the owner and the conservator. In either case, conservators are responsible for creating the conservation documentation. In Japan, there is no standardized format for the conservation documentation. In the field of sculpture, however, Nihon Bijutsuin had set standards for documenting and managing conservation since 1898. Cooperative program for the conservation of Japanese art abroad, led by the Tokyo National Research Institute for Cultural Properties, Tobunken, have established a baseline for documentation formats and contents, which had previously varied considerably. Although such common practices exist within specific fields, full standardization remains out of reach. Regarding types of documentation, 6 major types of conservation documentation are currently created in Japan, and 5 types of stakeholders manage them, as shown in the slide. However, there is no unified system for locating these documents, and they are only utilized within the scope of those directly involved with the conservation. Preserving and utilizing conservation documentation is essential for sustainable conservation. In recent years, concerns about the sustainability of conservation have increased in Japan, with discussions around establishing a national center specializing in cultural property conservation. One proposed function of this center is to systematically and centrally organize and archive conservation documentation. In 2022, under commission by the Agency of Cultural Affairs, Tobunken began developing a conservation project database and a conservation documentation database. The activities of the initiative were reported at Digital Humanities Conference 2024, so please refer to the conference abstract for further details. Currently, this initiative targets documentations for designated cultural properties only. However, conservation activities are also actively carried out for non-designated cultural properties, of course. Developing approaches to address diverse conservation documentation remains a challenge. I believe that university museums may offer a good starting point. University museums handle a wide range of cultural properties across diverse fields and varying quality levels, including conservation of various types and scales. As research and educational institutions, they are also obligated to make their activities public. I plan to use my role as a curator at a university museum engaged in conservation work to analyze universities' records and explore ways to advance the use of various conservation documentation in Japan. Thank you for listening. Please get in touch if you have any comments or advice on this presentation.
Olá, meu nome é Danca Mesquita, sou mestrando no programa de pós-graduação de Museologia e Patrimônio da Universidade Federal do Estado do Rio de Janeiro e Museu de Astronomia e Ciências Afins. Atualmente estou como bolsista no plano de trabalho intitulado Documentação de Bens Culturais Populares e Compartilhamento de Saberes, uma proposta articulada para acervos. Este plano de trabalho tem coordenação compartilhada entre o Núcleo Multidimensional de Gestão do Patrimônio e Documentação em Museus, da UNIRIO, e o Centro Nacional de Folclore e Cultura Popular, do IFAM.
O CNFCP
já possui uma tradição com a participação cidadã, desenvolvendo e executando programas e projetos de estudo, pesquisa, documentação, difusão e fomento às expressões dos saberes e fazeres do povo brasileiro. No âmbito do Museu de Folclore Edson Carneiro, no plano de trabalho, realizamos o levantamento de obras doadas entre 2013 e 2024, abrangendo os processos de higienização, marcação, fotografia, catalogação e inserção no sistema de gestão da própria instituição. O atual paradigma da participação cidadã, associado ao conceito de democracia cultural, destaca-se na definição proposta de museu pelo ICOM em 2022. Consideramos a participação cidadã nos museus como uma prática social em que os grupos se envolvem de forma ativa e consciente, reivindicando o reconhecimento de seu pertencimento ao patrimônio e construindo ferramentas que viabilizem esse pertencimento. A documentação, atualmente vinculada à gestão de acervos, é entendida como um conjunto de políticas, processos e procedimentos que organizam, recuperam e gerenciam as informações sobre os objetos, assumindo um papel central, onde a participação cidadã se torna um instrumento de inovação social, fortalecendo a democracia cultural, promovendo narrativas multivocais e a qualificação das informações. Apresenta os resultados parciais do plano de trabalho, cujo objetivo é desenvolver e testar um modelo piloto experimental de documentação participativa em museus, facilitando o compartilhamento de conhecimentos acadêmicos, técnicos e tradicionais. Além disso, propomos elaborar uma minuta de diretrizes institucionais para a documentação participativa, baseada em princípios de participação cidadã emancipadora. Nas culturas populares, os saberes se mantêm por meio da transmissão oral e da prática, englobando conhecimentos, modos de fazer e práticas culturais passadas entre gerações, o que requer um olhar atento para a autoria. Até o momento, catalogamos 774 objetos e identificamos 233 autores, sendo destes 216 pessoas físicas, 2 grupos ou comunidades, 12 não podemos atribuir, 2 famílias, uma identificada por carimbo e uma pessoa jurídica empresa. Uma análise regional dos autores mostra que cerca de 123 estão na região do Nordeste brasileiro, sendo 67 do estado de Pernambuco, enquanto a região Sudeste reúne aproximadamente 55, dos quais 28 são de Minas Gerais. Esses dados refletem a dinâmica da produção cultural brasileira, como em Caruaru, em Pernambuco, e o Vale de Jequitinhonha, em Minas Gerais, que são grandes áreas de produção artística. Nesse sentido, a integração dos autores e comunidades nos processos de documentação dos bens culturais reafirma o compromisso dos museus com as narrativas mais inclusivas e plurais. A participação cidadã permite que os detentores de conhecimentos contribuam diretamente com a gestão e interpretação das coleções, enriquecendo a catalogação e tornando-a mais fidedigna e contextualizada. O modelo piloto e experimental que está sendo desenvolvido no plano de trabalho propõe não apenas um novo olhar na documentação em museus, mas também a criação de diretrizes institucionais de documentação participativa. Com isso, esperamos que este projeto contribua para políticas culturais mais democráticas para a preservação das culturas tradicionalmente subrepresentadas nos espaços dos museus. Muito obrigada! Essa foi a apresentação do Núcleo Multidimensional de Gestão do Patrimônio e Documentação em Museus da UNIRIO, em conjunto com o Centro Nacional de Folclore e Cultura Popular do IFAM.
Hello, I'm Ingrid Fiorante, a museologist, and I will talk to you about my research and progress in Personal Master Program in the Caso Cruz Fiocruz. My research aims to develop an inventory model for cultural heritage in the museums and a documentation tool that contributes to risk management. Cultural heritage is associated to various risks related to different agents and factors, including exposure to the impacts of climate change. Its causes are related to social, cultural, and economic issues, lack of knowledge, inadequate management, and the dissociation of information, put the memory of people at the risk. The fire that occurred in 2018 at the National Museum of the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro in Brazil was the driving factor for this research. In the last decade, we have important references: IBRAM, UNESCO, ICOM, Ibermuseus, collection trusts, ICOM, and others. Many museums face management difficulties due to lack of researchers. Faced with these difficulties, some museums postpone the initiation of essential practices and the routines ensure that the sustainability and preserve the heritage under their care. The museums need to choose priorities, such as unsettled risks. The documentation uses at risk management for cultural heritage are necessary, continuous, and cyclical processes. These processes that can be aligned so that these actions are planned and possibly to be carried out at integrated set times. Accessing tools such as red lists and objectives can be used, as well as existing regulations in each country, in addition to international instruments and agreements. Would it be possible to reconcile these recommendations into a single tool to expand the objectives of its museum? The intent of inventory more is just research, it's about this. The documentation in museums help us know how to deal with the risks or loss of collection in activities for preservation, and initiate steps to mitigate risks. It also supports activities for planning, dissemination, remote access, education. Faced with changing in museum routines, the inventory can be helpful and manage the risks of museum heritage, especially in museums that do not have human, technological, or financial resources to aid recommendation in the legislation. Inventory metadata can be associated with these references and also contribute to ensure the minimum necessary for the preservation of cultural heritage. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Taiki Mishima, Associate Curator and Digital Curator at the Museum of the Imperial Collections, Sannomaru, Shozokan. The Museum of the Imperial Collections, Sannomaru, Shozokan is located in the East Gardens of the Imperial Palace in Tokyo, Japan. In 1989, His Majesty the Emperor Emeritus and his mother Empress Kojun gifted a substantial collection of art to the nation of Japan that had previously been passed down by the imperial family. In November 1993, the museum was established. The museum's collection spans diverse genres, including calligraphy, painting, and decorative arts. Visitors can view many iconic celebrated works from each period of Japan's history, as well as pieces from around the world that had been gifted to members of the imperial family. Since 2019, construction has been underway, and the museum is under partial reopening from November 3rd, 2023. A full reopening is planned for 2026. Our collection search offers multiple search methods and allows users to search the object by keywords, theme, artist or creator, category, place, period or century, and material technique. Of these, search by material technique is a hierarchical search constructed by developing a thesaurus unique to a museum with the use of the ART. This presentation will report on how we developed it. Although the words of materials or techniques are included in the basic collection information, they are so diverse and numerous. If we simply display them side by side as a long list, users would not be able to find right search words easily. Therefore, we developed a thesaurus for these words that can be displayed in a hierarchical manner. However, it was impossible to construct a thesaurus from scratch due to the amount of works involved. Therefore, we decided to utilize a thesaurus that is used worldwide, the AAT. The hierarchical classification in the AAT includes the object facet, the activities facet, and the materials facet. We have used this as a reference to establish two hierarchical groups, material or technique and material. Words that cannot be classified into these two hierarchical groups are currently assigned to the groups form and as a technique. Our first hierarchical group, material or technique, corresponds to the object facet and the activity facet in the AAT, but materials and techniques cannot be clearly separated in Japanese such as color on paper. Therefore, we decided to combine the object facet and the activities facet into a single group, which can be displayed and selected in a hierarchical manner according to the collection classification such as painting or lacquer working. Our second hierarchical group, material, corresponds to the materials facet in the AAT, basically utilizing the AAT hierarchical structure, such as metal at the top of gold and copper. For some superordinate words that were not used in our collection information, such as plant material, that should come above wood and bamboo, and animal material above ivory and mother of pearl, we added them as hierarchical terms by referring to the AAT. The AAT contains a large number of words and their hierarchical relations, but we have customized the AAT in several ways to make it easier to display and select words specific to our museum's collection. First, only the words included in our museum's collection information are used in our hierarchy, except for the superordinate words such as plant material and animal material that were added to group together lower-level words. Second, we omitted the hierarchies that are not necessary to search our collection. For example, grass is placed above bamboo in the AAT, but it was omitted and replaced with plant material. Third, in order to keep the hierarchy to a minimum and simple so that words are not scattered, they are grouped into words that are not in the AAT's original hierarchy of superordinate words. For example, hemp is grouped into plant material in our collection search, whereas its higher levels are plant fiber, natural fiber, and so on in the AAT. Thank you for your listening.
Hi all, this is a presentation by Stefania Economou, Katerina Zourou and Mariana Zikou from Web to Learn Greece. In our contribution, we focus on academia-driven open innovation for cultural heritage, presenting lessons learned from the ECOIN project. The ECOIN project brought to the fore the need for participatory, academia-driven actions for the revival of small cultural heritage organizations. You can find all results of the project, such as impact reports and online modules, at the project's website. Our study targets 3 groups and their level of social engagement before and after their participation in the ECOIN Open Innovation mini-projects. We outline 3 research questions based on which we analyzed the replies received.
In order to gain an overview of the sample data, we use this flow diagram to visualize the different categories and the volume of each pathway. We can see here the survey respondents per institution and type at a glance, almost 300 responses in total that we gathered from 19 different institutions. We see different flows. Each one represents a line which is proportional to the quantity that it shows. We can see each type separately. We see here, for example, for the higher education students, a bigger flow proportional to the categories that we just saw. The graph is also published online and is open access. We might want to dig deeper into the flows to get a better understanding of the sample data, but this particular diagram only represents data for assessing the social engagement parameter next to the governance and financing thematic, and this is the parameter that we are going to focus on in the next graphs. In order to assess the social engagement parameter and the perception and views of the sample group members, the data is visualized in a heat map with percentages that represent the distribution of responses across the scale steps from very low to very high, which correspond to a Likert scale based also on the format of the questions that we can dynamically see within the tooltip with questions such as in the scale from 1 to 5, how would you value or how would you perceive, etc. We are viewing two heat maps, one that represents responses before the Open Innovation Project and one with responses right after the implementation. At a glance, the highest scale steps gather the most responses at the entry level, generally interpreted as a high social engagement and a sense of importance of social engagement. And moving quickly to the heat map representation with responses after the Open Innovation Projects took place, we see a notable difference towards the highest scale step, particularly prevalent in the sample group of the university staff. Here we see representation of the same parameter of social engagement from a different angle through a radar chart, which offers a more consolidated view, allowing all the data to be represented in a single chart, and a more direct comparison by overlaying pre-survey and post-survey data on the same chart. Here we see the light hue, which plots the weighted average scores from the pre-survey, whereas darker blue plots the weighted average score from the post-survey, and this is an important difference from the previous heat map graph because here we follow a different calculation process and data preparation by representing the weighted average score as a percentage of the maximum possible score in two phases, and we can watch these individually for each of one of the three sample groups. And we even might see this consolidated in a pre-survey phase and in a post-survey by gathering all sample groups together, which indicates that on average the social engagement value is perceived as holding greater importance after the completion of the Open Innovation projects.
Finally, we are aware of selection and non-response biases that are present in our study, and we plan to overcome them by methodologically analyze them in a forthcoming comprehensive study. Thank you for your attention.
Hello everyone, my name is Beatriz Carrera Alonso. I am a currently Cuban doctoral student in the Graduation Program of Information Science at the Federal University of Santa Catarina in Brazil. Welcome to our discussion on museological representation of Baroque metapainting. This work that I'm going to present is part of my research thesis in progress. I am being guided by my doctoral advisor Camila Monteiro de Barros and co-advisor Renata Cardoso Padilla. Today we'll explore how these interplay artworks reflect the complexity of representation in Baroque. Let's embark on this fascinating journey through art and its layered meaning. To begin with, we will address the problem statement, then explore the Baroque characteristic. Next, we delve into metapainting, and also examine Panofsky's iconographic and iconological method. We are going to discuss the CIDOC CRM model too. In line with this, we explain museological information representation, and finally we arrive at some conclusion. The central problem of this research is the challenge of describing Baroque metapaintings in a way that captures their symbolic deeds. Current museological practices often fall short in providing an interpretative methodology that delves into the rich symbolic language of these artworks. Baroque is considered an integrative style where all its characteristics are mutually compatible and can coexist in the same work, reflecting its complexity. Illusioning, emotional, and psychological appeal, splendor, movement, and space are its main qualities. This is a summary of some of them. Contrast of light and shadows, distinctive use of illuminated areas contrasting with shadow areas. Physical exuberance, representing the dynamism of character with broad and violent movement. Chromatic counterpoint, use of luminous effects through harsh contrast and gradual change in intensity on canvas. Trompe-l'oeil, optical illusion, use of wall as support for paint scenes, creating the illusion that the walls do not exist or expand impressively. Architectonic cornice, with composition ending in centrifugal scale. Infernal landscape, dramatic and grand representation of landscape articulated around significant luminous effect. Still life, genre of painting that displays everyday objects such as flowers, books, and game pieces with visual realism. Douche-broad portrait, representation of groups, especially volunteer companies, with natural light. Psychological research, exploration of situation and characters through contrast and light and shadow, introducing an interest in moral portraits. During the Baroque period, a unique form of expression called metapainting emerged, challenging the limits of artistic representation by reflecting on the practice of painting in its nature. The origin of painting as an art object dates back to the end of Renaissance and extends to the Baroque. Modern painting gained autonomy and mobility, leading to a reflection and stripped and limited by artists. Here are some of the characteristics of metapainting, illustrated with example. Autonomy of painting, independent of the painting as an object in itself. Painting captured to the composition as a structural element within a larger entity or composition. Portrait focus as a visual or narrative resource. Painting window to view the world as a pictorial resource to represent the exterior in interior painting. Reflections in the mirror as a visual experimentation tool in painting. Self-portrait of the painter in action to reflect different social places and start painter's figure. Painting as a cultural artifact as an object of artistic representation and its incorporation into culture. Hiding key in allegorical painting as a key in cultural tone. The construction of frame, conception of the painting as a space enclosed within the frame wall with the purpose of avoiding conventionalism. To analyze metapaintings was employed Panofsky's iconographic and iconological method, which involves three levels of interpretation. The first level identifies the primary subject matter. The second interprets the cultural and symbolic meaning. The third level delves into the underlying principles and ideas that inform the artwork. This method helps uncover the deeper meaning and cultural significance embedded in Baroque metapainting. The CIDOC conceptual model, used for documented cultural heritage, provides a framework to standardize and structure the documentation of artworks. Through its integration with Panofsky's theory, this research aims to create a cohesive theoretical and methodological approach for representing the intricate relationships and symbolic elements of Baroque metapainting using the CIDOC structure. Museological information representation currently face significant challenges. These include discrepancies in descriptive standards and the need for structured documentation to facilitate accurate identification and interpretation of the artwork. The global community's adoption of semantic technology underscored the need for interconnected systems which provide integrated access to museum research and enhance the quality of information retrieval. In conclusion, this research aims to establish theoretical methodological foundations to support the museological representation of Baroque metapaintings. By integrating Panofsky's method with CIDOC model, this work seeks to provide an approach for understanding and representing these intricate artworks. And that's all. We hope you like this presentation. You can contact us by this email. Thank you so much for your attention. I look forward to any question or feedback you may have.
This video presents the ERC-funded project Manuscript AI. Launched in April 2024, this 18-month proof of concept aims at building an AI tool to facilitate automated integration and mapping of diverse cultural heritage data to a machine-understandable format. Europe is home to rich collections of cultural heritage. The accessibility and datification of these collections is deemed crucial for Europe's economic growth, for the creation of a more inclusive narrative of the past, and for the collective identity of its citizens. A prominent category of Europe's heritage are its medieval manuscripts, the handwritten books created in the Middle Ages. These precious objects, pinnacles of literary and artistic creativity, are currently housed in national libraries, university collections, and small local repositories. These institutions describe their holdings in catalogues, many of them digital. Yet, the lack of integration among these instruments impedes a comprehensive understanding of Europe's manuscript collections. We don't know how many manuscripts survive from the medieval period, where all of them are, and what secrets from the past they preserve. This state of affairs means these objects are vulnerable, a fact recognized by the EU. The solution to integrate all catalogue data on medieval manuscripts as machine-readable linked open data is time-consuming and prohibitively expensive, especially for smaller libraries. The Manuscript AI proof of concept investigates whether the process of conversion of catalogue descriptions to linked open data can be automated. We train a model to recognize different components of a manuscript description and map them to an RDF-based vocabulary. We aim to build a practical tool for heritage professionals. So, a dedicated interface will allow users to interact with the model, evaluate its output, and enrich the catalogue descriptions. The resulting linked open data are available to heritage institutions and research infrastructures, but also to the cultural sector and creative industries, areas where medieval manuscripts have much untapped potential. In addition to the model, a core component of the Manuscript AI pipeline is the ontology, a set of vocabulary terms designed to capture the full breadth and complexity of medieval manuscripts in a machine-understandable way. This vocabulary is built as an extension to CIDOC and LRM. The Manuscript AI ontology extends these existing vocabularies while maintaining an alignment with CIDOC and other relevant ontologies. The ontology is built with the future of heritage accessibility in mind. A specific element, labeled locus, allows the user to describe detailed features of the manuscript page directly linked to the digital image. As anticipating the growing importance of intelligent imaging, the locus feature strengthens the connection between the digitized heritage objects and its catalogue description. A core priority for the project is to maintain the human in the loop at all stages of design, implementation, and testing. To evaluate the Manuscript AI ontology, we have built a test suite. This suite allows future users of the tool to engage with the ontology in a practical rather than a theoretical way, experimenting with data entry and watching the knowledge graph grow. Manuscript AI will bring medieval manuscripts to broader audiences, opening up possibilities to explore and employ the treasures enclosed in their pages for an endless variety of applications, from educational computer games to museum exhibits, from XR experiences to storytelling. Most importantly, it will help us to better understand the past through the lens of our material and textual heritage. Do you want to learn more about Manuscript AI, or are you interested in being involved? We are looking for feedback on our ontology. Use the QR code for more information. Manuscript AI is a partnership of the Radboud Institute for Culture and History at Radboud University Nijmegen and TNO, the Netherlands Organization for Applied Scientific Research. It is funded by the European Research Council and supported by a consortium of heritage institutions and international humanities research infrastructures.
Hello everyone, I'd like to show you something I've been working on. This is a document, a web page. I'd like you to focus on the structure, not the content, because this example record is also a knowledge graph one written in a special flavor of the Markdown format I've been developing called Knowledge Graph Markup Language, or KGML. KGML is a simple language for creating machine-readable networks of knowledge, but optimized for human readers and human writers, and you don't need to be a software developer to use it. This example shows the core features of the language. It's very simple, but very powerful. You relate things to other things by using this nested list structure. This thing has some relationship with that thing, and that thing with this other thing, and so on. You use hyperlinks, definition lists, and images to precisely identify the resources you're describing. And you can connect things to textual strings too, in different languages and scripts, with formatting like bold and italics. You can qualify values like numbers or dates or booleans with data types. KGML is easy for readers. It uses the standard feature set of Markdown, a simple language for web writers, which prioritizes readability above all else. It has very little syntactic complexity, no curly braces or weird symbols. And because KGML renders to HTML and PDF as well as RDF serializations, it's trivial to publish on the web. KGML is easy for writers too, because editing plain text files doesn't require any specialist software. This is what makes KGML authorable. In the same way that the LOUD, Linked Open Usable Data Initiative, optimizes for usability by meeting software developers on their own terms at the API layer, KGML tries to optimize for authorability by empowering information and knowledge workers with a document writing convention for creating and sharing linked data, useful from the beginning of a research project. By making linked open usable data also authorable, we can close the gap between knowledge creators and knowledge consumers. I'm Edward Anderson. I'm a data engineer here at the Rijksmuseum. I'd love to collaborate with anyone interested on formalizing the language specification or implementing it in programming languages and developing tooling around it. Feel free to come say hello or drop me an email. Thanks.
Hello, dear colleagues. My name is Frank von Hagel. I'm a staff member at the Institute for Museum Research.
A warm hello from my side as well. My name is Dominik Stettler and I'm also a staff member at the Institute for Museum Research. We have both been participating in a working group that set itself the goal to create a kind of minimum record for the online publication of object data in museums.
At this point, we would like to introduce you to this minimum record recommendation and promote its joint and international development.
The basic idea is to use the recommendation to formulate the bare minimum for good object documentation that supports linked data and makes it possible to interconnect object data in digital space. It is a kind of guideline to show museums where to start if they want to assure a minimum of data quality. Therefore, we describe elements that are fundamental for presentation, research, and knowledge management.
In this way, we want to make museums' knowledge of the objects and what they stand for more easily available for all applications. They are intended to facilitate research with the object data as well as visualization and contextualization across the board.
The data element set is the centerpiece of our recommendation. There are two types of data elements: those which should or must be filled during object entry, and those which only play a role when it comes to delivering data to portals, data exchange, etc., like record ID, record type, and so on. For cataloging, essential elements are the object title, the object type, the inventory number, as well as at least one event in object's history and a media file. Recommended elements, on the other hand, include materials, technique, the object description, measurements, and subject keywords. Those help to add context and to bring data quality to museum documentation. Principally, there are different degrees of obligation, mandatory and recommended data elements. Among other things, the obligation level depends on whether elements are indispensable for delivering data to the German Digital Library or Europeana, and if they are mandatory in the Lido format.
Activate open knowledge. That was a basic idea. For this reason, open licensing of data of all kinds is important to us. For this reason, fair and care data are important to us. And we recommended the use of controlled vocabularies and the integration of URIs. This forms the basis for machine readability and the facilitation of modern data-based research. We want to further develop the minimum recommendations internationally, include more international standards, add more language versions like Spanish or French, and more.
Crosswalks have been developed in order to synchronize our recommendation with various international standards.
The standard spectrum, EDM, EOD, Lido, and CIDOC CRM have already been implemented. Object ID, linked art, and similar standards are going to follow. Which do you miss?
We want to invite museums worldwide to adopt and contribute to the minimum record recommendation in order to ensure its growth and relevance.
Let's work together to expand this resource and more languages and involve the shared knowledge. For more, visit our website or reach out our working group. Or contact the member of our working group. Thanks.
Designed by Meccano in 1997, the TU Delft Library is an iconic building at the heart of the campus. As digital transformation reshapes knowledge access, we are rethinking its spaces to serve as an inspiring hub for knowledge collaboration, training and resources. TU Delft Library is undergoing a transformation, turning its prominent book wall into the collection wall, an interactive experience designed to inspire exploration, discovery and serendipity. This project will visualize and activate both our physical and digital collections, fostering new connections and narratives for educational purposes and cultural programming. The collection wall stands as the feature project's strategic goal to provide an inspiring learning and working environment anchored in our collections.
We are currently exploring the opportunity space for the collection wall through a collaborative process that involves library colleagues, lecturers, researchers, and students. By bringing all these perspectives together, we ensure we are building a vision that is feasible, sustainable, and that truly reflects the community needs and ambitions.
Through discussion, feedback, co-creation sessions, and an education network of many course collaborations in different faculties, the challenges of the project are addressed together with the community.
The collection is being updated with input from different professors that think currently certain topics are interesting for everyone to read and to explore.
Guided by principles of co-curation, experimentation, and research as a performance, we have been augmenting our physical bookshelves and heritage objects with multimedia and interactive technologies and tangibilizing our digital collections to captivate 21st century library goers. Drawing inspiration from advancements in artificial intelligence, data visualization, and interaction design, the collection wall has been breathing new life into physical and digital library collections, fostering fresh connections and narratives for educational and cultural enrichment.
I find the the whole concept of mixing physical and digital artifacts and interfaces really interesting, especially in the context of a library where traditionally most knowledge is stored in a physical form. And obviously, with the way that technologies are progressing nowadays, the way that people are learning in an increasingly digital way, I think it's an opportune time to explore that.
It's part of the charm that, you know, it's easier to grab a book that you're seeing and then, or a token and scanning it. It makes it more real instead of just looking at the digital. And I also like the actual objects that are over there because it makes the real world interact with the digital.
To delve into these concepts and assess potential avenues, we have been creating a series of prototypes that visualize and interlink collections with trending topics in research, education, and social media. Developed hand in hand with students and faculty, this iterative approach empowers the collection wall team to refine user experiences, incorporate feedback, and steer the project's trajectory accordingly.
I think it is about creating connection between the students and the wall again. And the prototype is meant to show why the books in the wall are relevant for engineers or upcoming engineers.
What the AI librarian taught me when I was testing it about my own books actually is to show the wider connections to other books, to other research domains. So it actually opens up my view even more than I was already aware of.
We're conceptualizing the collection wall to be a platform where science, technology, art, and culture converge and can reconfigure at a central point on campus to provide accessibility to content and collaboration for everyone.
The collection wall collaborative process has been turning static resources into dynamic sources of inspiration to better engage and empower our visitors. Inspiring and embodying the transformation of our iconic wall turned the gateway into the future of knowledge production, co-curation, and sharing.
On the 5th of June, we launched the Louis Andriessen platform at the BIM House in Amsterdam. This digital platform is a space where the legacy of Dutch composer Louis Andriessen is preserved and cherished. The website offers a full list of works enriched with content from Dutch performing arts archives and Andriessen's personal archive, including audio samples, performance dates, his own liner notes, and samples from his legendary Big Book, in which he wrote down all compositions. In addition to this archival part, the chapter M is for Magazine offers articles and an agenda. Over the next year, we will add videos in the Playing Andriessen series, which will capture oral history from performers and collaborators, preserving their stories for future audiences.
Als laatste krijg je nog de ellende van... Dat is eigenlijk, dan ben je echt helemaal dood. En gelukkig komt dan dit, hè, dat gedeelte. En dan kan je eventjes pauzeren. Maar goed, het is een waar feest om het te spelen.
I'm Mirjam Zegers and I was Louis Andriessen's PA for about 20 years, which naturally led to my involvement in preserving his legacy as curator of this platform. We have an excellent team. Over the last 3 years, we have collaborated with several partners. It is the precision work of building human mycelium, the underground network of mushrooms. We try to put things in motion that are sustainable without needing too much everyday attention. Now, Jeroen will tell you more about the technology that makes this all possible.
Creating the Louis Andriessen platform was a technical challenge from the start. We chose OMIKS, a linked open data content management system, and we combined it with the cataloging standard RDA. Used by many libraries all over the world, RDA offers powerful capabilities but comes with a steep learning curve. Our initial focus was compiling a list of Andriessen's works, but cataloging these as works or expressions in RDA terms proved to be non-trivial. Metadata cleanup and alignment between sources require deep expertise and ongoing effort. Data, whether linked or not, are inherently messy. Working with linked data brought its own challenges, even for the tech-savvy team members. Each archive or source comes with its own structure, reflecting the unique history and perspective of its creators. This meant that integrating data from different sources involved a fair amount of wrangling. While RDA is excellent for cataloging, it wasn't initially designed to present information to broader audiences, making it less intuitive for end users. Luckily, early web design work provided us with a guiding light, keeping us on track even when the project was in its invisible phases. These challenges shaped the platform's development, offering valuable lessons for the future, and in the end it all worked, although we still have a backlog full of possible optimizations and enhancements of various sizes.
Now that the platform is live, we're focused on expanding its reach, both by connecting with more archives and engaging new audiences. Through social media, live events and collaborations with festivals and venues, our goal is to make Louis Andriessen's legacy a dynamic part of contemporary performance practice. For this platform to thrive, sustainability is essential, both in structure and a long-term home. While the current team will manage it for now, we're working to secure a lasting home at a university or another respected institution to ensure ongoing access and support. By cultivating a network that mirrors the connectivity of Andriessen's work, we're expanding the mycelium, both in technology and in the human world, ensuring that each stage leaves something enduring. Andriessen's music always engaged deeply with the past and the music of his time. His motto, "All music is about other music," is a reminder of the value of memory in art. Without preserving these connections, we risk losing the context that makes innovation possible. The Louis Andriessen platform aims to bridge these gaps, ensuring that his music and ideas remain accessible to new generations, offering opportunities for them to become as inspired as we are. May we together build a polyphonic Andriessen archive.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Patricia Ferreira Lopez, postdoctoral researcher at the University of Seville. Today we will present our ongoing project modeling the graphic documentation of the archaeological site of Italica. This is part of our that is involved in this project: Elena González Gracia, our PhD candidate, me, Patricia Ferreira Lopez, postdoctoral researcher, and Francisco Pinto Porto, full professor at the University of Seville. Also, the VAST lab is collaborating to develop the semantic model. Our object of study is located in the south of Spain, in the province of Seville, 14 kilometers from the city of Seville. In this project, we focus on the graphic documentation produced about the archaeological site from the 16th century to the present day. Currently, our sample consists in 350 graphic documents. As can be seen in this graphic, most of them are cartography of the site, documents related to the amphitheater and the Roman houses. Most of the documentation was generated in the last 40 years. In addition, it is important to note that we also deal with digital documents. Thus, both types are taken into account in the modeling process, analog and digital. The objectives of the project are to carry out an update and unified reconstruction of the graphic heritage of the archaeological site of Italica, propose a methodology for the study of the graphic documentation, architectural graphic documentation, analyze how graphic expression influences the construction of the collective imagery of a cultural asset and how it evolves over time, verify whether there is a relationship between the graphic documentation and the promotion of actions for the conservation of the cultural asset, as well as with the process of construction of an administrative and legal framework for its protection. Flow is divided in 7 steps. First one, collecting sufficient and significant sample of graphic documents, digitization of analog objects from the archive, design and creation of a relational database, the design of a schema of the ontological model oriented to the specificities of the analog and digital objects, testing and review of the model using 3 and 4, mapping of the database to the CIDOC CRM standard using 3 and 4 and artificial intelligence, visualization of the model through the use of GraphDB2. We are now at this stage working in the last 3 steps. Here is part of our results. Here we can see part of a schema of the model. In this particular case, we have some drawings that are part of a document. We have added data about the techniques and materials of the document, also the biography of the author, and data about the part of the site that is represented in the document. In this slide, we can see a screenshot of the 3 and 4 tool that we are using to control the standardization and automate the mapping of the data. And we can see how the tools also serves us as a viewer to observe the model and order it in folders in a hierarchical way. In this slide, we can see some of the visualization that we have so far using GraphDB. And here is just part of the data that is represented. In this visualization, we can see a more complete graph of the model. Here, we can see a more complete visualization of the model. Here, we also start testing the visualization in Fair Epigraph tool in order also to make some queries. In case you are interested in find out more of the project, please contact us, consult some publication that we have published. Thank you all for your attention.
Olá, meu nome é Matheus Simões, pesquisador no GEP, Núcleo Multidimensional de Gestão do Patrimônio de Documentação em Museus da UNIRIO, Universidade Federal do Estado do Rio de Janeiro, no Brasil.
In this talk, I'll discuss creating an interactive LGBT+ cultural heritage map, a key tool for preserving and promoting LGBT+ community memory by analyzing museum documentation. I'll explain the indexing method that enables user collaboration in data entry using a specific taxonomy to organize information about LGBT+ historical sites and events. Lastly, I'll examine the challenges of collaborative documentation in preserving LGBT+ memory. The LGBT+ Cultural Heritage Interactive Map is a Bajuba Museum initiative, a virtual museum dedicated to LGBT plus history, aiming to preserve the living memory of LGBT plus resistance. Launched July 6, 2024, the map is an indexing tool for users to add info on historic sites and events, enabling collaboration and version control. Entries must use museum-approved terms and are hosted on OpenStreetMap, OSM, a collaborative geospatial database. Indexing uses the Heritage Typologies taxonomy, expanded from 5 to 21 terms by November 2024. Initially, it included terms like conquered territory and sociability spaces. The taxonomy's evolution aims to better capture LGBT plus community diversity and cultural references, including collections, lawsuits, and censorship. This expansion recognizes the importance of preserving history, including legal and human rights aspects, and highlights collective memory and cultural expression as resistance. However, the lack of clear guidance on applying taxonomy terms on the museum's site can lead to inconsistencies, hindering information retrieval. Lack of standardization may compromise data integrity, causing duplicate records and categorization errors. Predefining taxonomy terms is crucial to ensure documentation cohesion and reliability. The map's evolving taxonomy reflects a more detailed, critical approach to various LGBT plus life and struggle dimensions. New narratives enrich documentation, boosting representation and visibility of community experiences. Projects like Queen the Map use OSM, letting people add maps with personal stories. However, unlike the interactive map, Queen the Map lacks strict identity and source checks, making it more subjective. Collaborative documentation methods through personal stories or shared cultural references help build a queer map preserving memory. This mapping allows diverse understandings of community heritage using microhistories or historiographical revisions. Documentation is crucial to make LGBT plus narratives visible, facing challenges like institutional bias and LGBTIP plus underrepresentation. A collaborative approach is key to anticipate gaps in historical research on territorial occupation. Besides maintaining a living archive, the map creates a digital space for LGBTI plus to explore their history interactively. By mapping accessible places, it highlights marginalized lifestyles, promoting inclusion and offering a tool for cultural resistance. Thank you very much.
Welkom bij de Hackalot 2024. Ik sta hier in het Olympisch Stadion in Amsterdam. In dit iconische gebouw, waar destijds de Olympische Spelen van 1928 plaatsvonden, gaat het allemaal gebeuren. De Hackalot, oftewel de hackathon voor het erfgoedveld, georganiseerd door het netwerk Digitaal Erfgoed. Niet eerder was er zoveel belangstelling om mee te doen aan deze 8e editie. Maar liefst 11 teams met deelnemers uit 4 verschillende landen gaan een nacht lang de uitdaging aan om aan de slag te gaan met datasets van musea, van archieven en andere erfgoedorganisaties. En daar gaan ze allemaal mooie dingen mee maken, zoals apps en games. En dat allemaal om het erfgoed op nieuwe manieren aan het publiek te presenteren.
Hi, we are Team Fitz.
Hello, we're Team Getty from Los Angeles.
Wij zijn Team Café Latte.
So, good evening everyone. We are from Team Haiku.
Hallo, wij zijn Team Ladies of Data.
We're Team Mambo.
Yo.
Wij zijn Team Tripli Memo.
Hallo, wij zijn Team Clubby.
Hallo, wij zijn Team NADD.
Oké, hallo, wij zijn team Lekker Ontketende Data, oftewel Data Unchained.
Hallo, wij zijn team Slavernij in Paramaribo.
Vorig jaar won het team Utrecht Time Machine met een game waarin je als het ware een schilderij binnenstapt. En waarin je ook kunt rondlopen. Het is een heel mooi voorbeeld van hoe je erfgoed op een nieuwe manier kunt ervaren. Ja, en voor musea is het ook een hele mooie manier om verhalen te vertellen.
3, 2, 1, 0!
Een internationale jury beoordeelt alle inzendingen van een nacht lang doorwerken.
So it was a great honor to be part of the jury of this year's Hackalod. We found that all of the teams brought great creativity and innovativeness in their use of linked open data to produce interfaces that were relevant to today's society, but using the information from cultural heritage institutions and historical sources.